Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about Dark Knight's Death Metal number 2. I'm just excited even saying that. Um, so, this is quite the issue. We got a lot of stuff to go over. I really enjoyed the first issue. We did a little bit of an experiment last time with a live reaction. I've read this book now. I think it's definitely better that I read it. I can better encode what happened. Last time I got little things wrong in Death Metal 1 because I was trying to read it as quickly as possible. But I think there was value in getting my fresh reaction to something brand new like that. This book has so much going on. I was thinking about how to review this thing, and honestly, I think our best bet is for me to kind of just go through what happens in the book first and then kind of get my thoughts on it because it's so much, and I kind of only talked about so many things in the first book because I was trying to dance around for spoilers. So I'm going to warn you guys, this is probably going to be a pretty spoilery review. I'll try and leave some things to the whatever. We're here to talk about this book, and I assume you're either in the tank for this or not. Hello, Raphael. Hello, Tim Chavis. Thanks for joining me for this stream. Should be a pretty fun review. Yeah, we are just going to talk about this book today. I did pull a whole bunch of other stuff. I still got a big stack of books to talk about, but we're going to try and divide them up into individual books and see how that goes, as I was talking about on our last stream, which was like less than an hour ago. But that was a whole graphic novel. This was a shorter book, so I can do a quicker turnaround for it. And it's awesome. Once again, we have Snyder and Capullo teaming up along with Glapian and Placencia. What is it again? That's a G, yeah. Okay. Anyways, the art looks amazing once more. We even start, they have the same map, but it's all colored and a little more detailed. Hello, Patrick and Tevia, thanks for joining. Raphael's saying, excitement intensifies. Yeah, this was a good issue. We open on the hellscape outside of what used to be Washington, D.C., with Wonder Woman, Wally West, who's like Mobius, basically. And that's been all established at this point. And Swamp Thing are off to meet up with Batman. They have a fun little interaction with the monster truck on the cover of this book, which is a sentient Batman. I did not expect that or know that. That made me laugh. There's a couple funny lines. Oh, and before that, we start with Batum, Adam, and some Sergeant Rock's narration, and that's also a funny moment because Batum doesn't last past that page. Yes, I think you did say something about that, Raphael, and you did call it. We'll talk about that when we get there. So they go into a tomb, and they encounter the Justice Society of America, who have been teased, it feels like forever, in DC Comics, going back for so long. And it's cool to see, like, very old versions of the Justice Society meeting and warmly greeting the like gathered heroes we have here, and like Jay Garrick embracing Wally West. That's a great moment. Dr. Fate has just a fun line where it's Swamp Thing, you've lost weight, referring to his emancipated appearance. But I think that's so smart because like the Earth's all messed up, so of course the Green's like just the shambled remnants of surviving. Patrick was saying the Batum part was funny. It was hilarious. And Savvy was saying Batman Monster Truck is really funny. This book is funny. I laughed at least 3 different parts. We referred to 2 of them. There's another coming up. And then they encounter Batman, who's just hanging out with an undead Jonah Hex, using his black ring to just mark all these graves for basically this army of dead superheroes and I assume other villains and characters that are going to be part of his Black Ring army against the Batman Who Laughs, who was killed last issue by Wonder Woman's invisible chainsaw. But as Wonder Woman states here, and Batman's all grumpy at her about it, she's like, but the Batman Who Laughs is just going to become something worse, and it might screw up all of our plans now. And she talks about how like she doesn't believe that, and there's this genuine and interesting conflict going on between Batman and Wonder Woman, where Batman's like, well, we tried to recreate a multiverse. That's like Diana's goal, is she's going to create an anti-crisis. Gather all the crisis energy hanging out in the original Dark Multiverse and use it to recreate an infinite multiverse. And if I had a guess of what Snyder wants to do with the DC Universe, it's that. And I've long supported that. That's That's like goal number one for me. And so they talk about that, and there's some great artwork. They kind of dig back into metal a little bit. That becomes relevant later. And then they sort of flag down Barry Allen, who's just been sort of running around trying to travel to the past. Um, just trying to fix things and also stay hidden from the Batman Who Laughs so he doesn't get all messed up, and has basically used up what little remains of the Speed Force. But they're like, well, we don't want to travel through time. We don't think that's the solution. We want to go and free our friends who are being held in Apocalypse. And Barry's like, great. All the Flashes get reunited. Well, those three, Wally West, Jay Garrick, and Barry Allen. And then we cut to Castle Bat for an insane scene. So I didn't give this away, but at the end of issue number 1, we get a cool little cut to a Dr. Manhattan Batman who shows up here and basically gets merged with the Batman Who Laughs. And he emerges as this cool blue Batman Who Laughs that's all like... He's like, oh, I'm so much more than I was before. Perpetua reaches out to him and she's like, I know I can't trust you, but I would like to remind you that the beings that imprisoned me to begin with, the hands, the hand that we saw with the Green Lantern ring and a bunch of other comics that, created this multiverse, or at least this orrery, and imprisoned Perpetua and all these things, they will absolutely destroy us if I am unable to keep us hidden from them. So if you betray me and overthrow me, you're screwed. Which is a great scene. And meanwhile, she's like just casually talking about this as the Red Sun DC universe is being obliterated by her forces. Because, of course. And her forces, by the way, being this Martian human hybrid army, I assume, that they had set up from before. That's what they look like. And I haven't read all those Justice League comics, but And then we just get a really nice, touching double spread to Danny O'Neill. It's nice to see. This book is kind of interesting. Like, once again, it has the holographic color. We have more of the glossy paper, which DC seemed to have been shying away from, but maybe this comic was printed at a weird time. But it feels a little flimsier than, I don't know. I was like, oh, I don't know. I love this book, but the actual quality of the printing, I've seen better. Before I jump back into this, Raphael is saying the Batman Who Laughs wants to solve the everything of everything and then destroy it. Yeah. I think Wonder Woman's goals are more interesting in all of this. But then, okay, we'll get into that. And Tevi was saying, I'm really hoping by the end of Death Metal we retcon all the garbage out of existence, like Bendis stuff goes away. I would not expect him to go like that in that direction. But Bendis is leaving Superman, so that's something. Lohan's seeing me on camera for the first time. I've been meaning to shave today. I haven't really gotten around to doing that. I'm kind of wearing an old shirt. So it is what it is. So then Batman Who Laughs is like, all right, wipes away his followers except for one Robin who he's like, I'm going to make you the Robin King. And that's a fun little moment. Meanwhile, he's like talking about like, oh, I'm gonna screw over everything, and then he's like, but being this blue guy, like that's a symbol of hope to me, or like a color of hope. Oh, Lohan's saying love from Brazil. Well, love right back at you. I hope you're staying safe down there. We got a bunch of viewers out in Brazil. A lot of love to all of you guys. That's always great. I talked about this last week on one of the streams about how much I appreciate viewers outside of the US. Not that I don't love our American viewers, but it's great to get an international audience because most of our audience, it's like 66% or something like that, is from America. So it's cool hearing from other countries and stuff like that. Again, not that there's anything wrong with our American viewers or anything like that. It's just nice to get a variety. Tevi is saying Wonder Woman's plan is really fun. I think that's the direction we're going, and I'm great. And he's also saying Robin King sounds fun. Yeah, they've talked about this in preview images, and it's like a messed up version of Damian Wayne that's just become a king, and he like, cause all those Robins that work on for the Batman Who Laughs just keep saying crow, and he controls them by saying bar in return, which is a nice little messed up reference to what happened to Jason Todd. But then this Robin, when Batman Who Laughs is like, oh, I could transform you into something more like me, he goes crown, and it's a simple pun basically, but I like it. Yes. And Raphael's saying that now the Batman Who Laughs has the or has the power to back up his intelligence, and I think that's very true. I don't know, he's terrifying like this, and then he transforms himself, and I'm going to show it. The darkest night. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction. Darkest night. Whew. What a shot. And then we're still not done. We cut back to our heroes who are racing off to do something. I think they blow past Jonathan Crane. Oh, yeah, they're going into this weird vault thing that Batman set up with the Toy Master. And he even built these recreations of the Dark Knights. It's great to see them again. I was so happy to see those guys again. And then, just like in Metal, Toy Master has built them a robot. And that's the third part that really made me laugh. Wonder Woman's like, oh, like you're saying Toy Master made something stealth that can get us into new apocalypse undetected, something subtle. Batman gets quiet for a minute and just goes, well, it's not exactly subtle. And it's that big giant robot. And that's how the issue ends. So, what's brilliant about this is, like, we were talking to kind of like throughout the review, is like this is a lot of fun. Well, I shouldn't have put this in the bag. I'll take it out at some point again. But, like, I don't know. It's just a weird. It's a weird kind of fun. Like, it's awesome that this is so fun and stuff, but I would expect it to be a lot more darker and serious. But I like that it's sort of embracing the fun of all of this and just going for it. I really can't wait till we see Superman presumably being held at New Apocalypse. We kind of got a taste of him on here. He seems to be all doomsdayed up, or at least partially so, and his appearance really reminds me of what he looked like in the 90s to a degree, but also like with this like arm wrapping thing going on. Seems interesting. Tevye saying fighting robot Mega Trinity. Yeah, it's pretty great. Overall, this it's just another strong entry in this little mini series, and it seems like this book in particular really left me thinking. Like, yeah, I would expect us. The direction we're going from here is to bring back the Infinite Earths, and we've been reviewing some of those books from the Spectre era, especially the stuff dealing with like the Crisis of Multiple Earths. I read that whole book leading up to the story featuring the Spectre, and it's all stuff with like Earth 3, so the like Ultraman and all of those heroes, and weird stuff going on between Earth 2 and like Earth 1 being remade thanks to a wish by the Thunderbolt. That stuff was pretty entertaining, and it just showed the wild potential of that era of DC, where it's just world upon world they could create, which is kind of what has always been the norm with Marvel and stuff. And I think DC opening up the multiverse a little bit is great and will absolutely benefit Death Metal and those two books that we've gotten so far. There's so much more coming out. Like, it's not like a huge long miniseries or anything like that, but so far everything's just been great. And yeah, like I talked about it at the beginning of my review, but really good artwork. See, I said I shouldn't have bothered putting the book away. It's not even the most action-heavy stuff, and even there's things like Batman Who Laughs does just sort of decimate all of these superheroes and stuff. Or not superheroes, like his team of Batmen and stuff like that. Like, we lose the Batman T-Rex, we lose Bat Mage and all those other characters that were kind of set up. But I think in a story this big, it's okay to kind of be decimating it, and it just shows how much the Batman Who Laughs has changed because of this. And it's a huge twist in direction for all of this character, and meanwhile we're still introducing new things, like the Dark Knights are coming back. So I think there's value in all of that. Tevye was saying he just made a video on the breaking news of Wally West reuniting with his family. Yeah, like, it's cool that that's all part of this story. I'm not really sure what else to touch on here. It's all great and highly recommended. These books, I didn't know if they were all going to be holographic like this. My camera is kind of picking it up. But there's really nothing like Actually, once again, it does a pretty good job when I hold it in the right way. I really think there's value in owning a print copy of these books if they're all going to look like this. They're just so beautiful. I got mine bagged and boarded, which is something I don't always do. And you're going to notice pretty much every other book I had bought from today or pre-ordered, whatever you want to call it. Um, I didn't bag and board pretty much any other except for Death Metal and Strange Adventures, which I really liked. But I'm kind of an issue behind on that one right now, so I don't think we'll be doing that. Patrick is saying, don't you think Dr. Manhattan is getting kind of overused in main DC continuity? Yes. They need to. I'm hoping this is it. Like, this is just Snyder's little tail end of it, and we'll take a step away from all of that now, because otherwise, um, yeah, he is getting overused, especially when we consider the larger context of, like, well, we already did a thing with, um, what's his face? Oh, the Watchmen HBO series. And then also, now that I'm saying it out loud, there's like an announcement going on with Tom King. So, yeah, that's a bit of an issue. Um, yeah, that's not a character to overuse. I have no defense of it. I'm sure there are creative ways to use him. This is certainly a solid example of a creative way to use Dr. Manhattan that's different from anything Alan Moore did, but like at a certain point, that is going to be overplayed. Raphael is saying, with the new Batman Who Lost Power, do you think the League will get power amps? Um, that's a good question. How are they going to deal with Dr. Manhattan? Empowered Batman who laughs and Perpetua and all that. I guess it comes down to the hands. Those beings that imprison Perpetua and stuff. If they can somehow get the signal out to them, that's what this story and this book would indicate would be the solution for the heroes as it presently exists. On the other hand, Batman does have the Black Lantern Corps to power him up. Maybe Necron can show up. That's someone who might be able to at least somewhat stand up to these beings. Who knows? That you guys raised some good questions there that I hadn't really thought about. Jorge, I'm gonna assume, or George's. I don't know. I've never seen it pronounced that way before, though. Juilliard was saying, leaving a like and a message to support, but I can't listen as I'm behind on the story. Keep up the good work, Arden. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully one day, I mean, I know when I read books like this, I'm sometimes left like, oh, I want to talk about this with somebody, but like if my friends haven't read this, then, it's going to be difficult. Debbie was saying, do you think Dr. Manhattan's powers are being overused? Yeah, I just talked about that. Because, yeah, Raphael was saying we'll see how much power he has. And then Tevi was saying, I'm hoping this is the end of Dr. Manhattan's powers being everywhere. I agree. Like, there is definitely a hard ceiling. And, George. Oh, French spelling. Okay, sorry. I'm used to, anyways. That would be with a J, though, the way I pronounced it. So, my apologies. But yeah, he agrees. Too much Dutch Manhattan now. The Wally thing was enough for me. I kind of agree. Wally being in this story like this is interesting. Them doing that thing with Dr. Manhattan's interesting, but I don't know, that character already we've severely compromised. Well, I guess it doesn't affect the actual original Watchmen book, but at a certain point it's like, well, what are we doing to these characters and stuff? And I think there is a question to be asked there. Patrick was saying Dr. Manhattan Who Laughs versus Dr. Manhattan Wally West. That could go either way. Yeah, is he Dr. Manhattan-y? I thought he was more of like Mobius empowered. I could be wrong about that. Because he talks about like his knowledge and stuff and he was on the chair. I don't know. There's so many comics that go over this stuff and it's so complicated that I could be misinterpreting things. Lancelot Sanchez says they should put Sir Lancelot of the Lake in the comics. Sir, you should read The Once and Future by Kieran Gillian. He's great. Raphael is saying, for me, the more Dr. Manhattan, the better. Hey, if that works for you, man, that's great. There is an argument to be made that it's like, well, Superman's been in comics for decades, and like it's hard to call him like overused. So there is a world for him, but I just personally, as a fan of the Watchmen, think it's rough to see that happen to that character. I'm okay with the Watchmen HBO series. I really liked it, in fact. I like this. I even was okay-ish. I have a lot of issues with the ending of Doomsday Clock, but I think that on the whole worked for that character. But, like, what are we doing? That's my question to DC at that point. Raphael say we need to see more power feats. Well, I do want to see the Darkest Knight in action. Let's put it that way. And Patrick is saying, but Wally West has the Doctor Manhattan symbol on his head, right? I think so. Like, I'm not entirely disagreeing with you. Yeah, it is that symbol. No, so I guess it is that. Okay, and Tevi was saying yes. So maybe you guys are right. Well, then there's like two Dr. Manhattans running around, and that's too easy and out for them. That's a little, well, say disappointing, but whatever. I love that story, and that's such a small thing. Okay. No, you guys are right. That does make sense with some other stuff I've read. But it's just like well then I think it's fair to be asking that question, like, well, are we using Dr. Manhattan too much if there's two versions of him running around in this story? It feels like less of a trump card. And I think that is what I said last review for issue number 1, because that is how I interpreted things, and then I somehow talked myself out of it. I was like, oh no, that must just be him Mobius powered, because he's talking about like how he doesn't know about like the hidden tomb where the JSA was hiding. Whatever. Tevi was saying, I blame Scott Lobdell for giving Wally West the terrible Dr. Manhattan Mobius chair garbage. Well, hey, good news, everyone. No more Scott Lobdell, and good riddance. I had to read a bunch of his comics recently from the New 52 era, and he holds up better than some of the other writers from that time period, I'll tell you guys that, but he ain't great, and I'm glad he's gone. I think... Well, you know what? I can't speak to that. So I was going to say I don't think he's as abusive as like Cameron Stewart and some of the other people that have recently been appropriately outed, but I don't know that, and I'm not going to say that declaratively anymore. I would say that the people who have worked around Scott Lobdell would be able to speak to that. DC still needs some reconciling with things, and that gets into people like Sean Gordon Murphy and all that stuff, but oh god, we don't need to talk about all of that. Raphael is saying, I wonder how much the Batman Who Laughs knows about what is beyond all multiverses. That's a good question for him. Perpetua seems to know. He must have a pretty solid inkling, but I also don't know how much he cares. Like, he talks about wanting to build like a dark multiverse of 52 worlds. I think that's a neat idea. He should be able to create that, and that should be able to just exist as the new dark multiverse. And like that could be a source for future stories, future tales from the dark multiverse, and just future ideas in general. Like, let's say, I don't know, Justice League Dark wants to have a story taking place in one of the dark multiverse worlds, they should be able to do that. So that's like, if I had a magic wand, or if I were somehow transported to wherever Scott Snyder is and be like, well, here's what I would do, that I'd be like, well, yeah, create the infinite multiverse and then create the 52 dark multiverse worlds and just sort of leave them on the side, like the way the dark multiverse kind of presently exists. You can't destroy that sort of thing. It just exists. Why close off any stories? Why kill off the Dark Knights when we can have them come back as cool robots? Why, like, make it so that none of these cool versions of characters could ever come back? That's what the dark multiverse can be for, right? And I'm not saying that we have to keep every character around forever or have no stakes to anything. It's like, no, we just open things up for future writers. And then Snyder seems to have that idea in mind, which I'm all for. That's a better solution than 5G, because that's how you can also do the different time periods. Oh no, I've exploded chat. Yeah. Like Tevi is saying, with Dan Didio gone, we can finally have good stories again. I don't think it's that simple. And I don't necessarily think Snyder's the be-all, end-all in that regard. But I do think this Metal series has certainly felt like a step in the right direction. Patrick is saying, do you plan on reviewing the recent Hawkman run, one of the strongest coming out of DC? Would love if you can explain its new history. I have read some of those Hawkman comics. I'm gonna have to do an inventory of that. I might have that on digital or something. I'll follow up with that. Here, I had a little to-do list. I'm gonna write that down right now, because either someone's brought it up before and I made a mental note to do that and didn't follow up on it or something, but regardless, Hawkman. After reading the new 52 Hawkman, I'm down for a palate cleanser, and I've heard it's really good from others, and yes, sounds like a great idea, Pat. Pratic is how your username is spelled. I keep saying Patrick. Raphael said, the Batman Who Laughs knows the multiverse works in a certain way. Oh yeah, who knows what that guy's. Well, now he knows even more because he's got all that sweet Manhattan knowledge coursing through his brain. Although, as we established in this book, like clearly that's not the be all and end all when it comes to knowledge, because Wally West didn't know about the tomb thing that they went to, like the Valhalla place. So he doesn't know everything necessarily. Um, yeah, yeah. And Raphael's talking about like where his parents always die. Oh, that's true because he was able to navigate the multiverse in the Batman Who Laughs series and find all those Bruce Waynes lying around. Tevye saying now all we need is to have Bendis far away from the main DC universe and let Bendis go back to his indie stuff. Hey, that would work. Bendis does some pretty, like, I like powers and stuff. Or let Bendis find his own direction. Get all Robert Kirkman-y. He probably can drive an audience like that, so I don't see why it's so necessary to keep him around in DC, where things have not been working, in my opinion. And who knows? Bendis said he's leaving Superman. It's unclear when that will be. Raphael is saying, so maybe his get out of being... Huh? Raphael, I'm going to just read it. So maybe his out to get the being who made the multiverses that way. I don't understand what you're saying, but oh, maybe he's out to get the being who made the multiverses that way. Got you. Quite possibly. He seemed to just kind of brush off Perpetua's warnings about those beings, because it is implied to be a group called the Hands, and I guess one hand specifically created this universe. They're gonna follow up on that because like there's a whole 2-page spread of Perpetua talking about it, and it seems like the one thing that could just wipe away Perpetua and the Batman Who Laughs in an instant. That would be that's got to be paid off somehow, unless Snyder's just going in all sorts of directions. Tevye was saying, too bad we still have Leviathan and his mess. Oh yeah, that Leviathan stuff is so dumb. And then 5G is... Yeah, we talked about that before, Tevye. Tim Chavez was saying, what happened to the 3 Jokers? That's a good question. I heard it was going to be dealt with somewhere, and now I don't know. Here, let me look it up. This was in the news recently, after being teased for like years now. Oh yeah, so there is an upcoming book by Jason Fabok called 3 Jokers, but it's been delayed because of... the pandemic. Everything's all over the place. That's why I have a crazy pull this week. Like, we got some other big books to talk about this week. Alright, George is taking off because we're verging on spoiling for him. Thanks for joining us while you did, participating in chat. Always lovely to hear from everyone. And, Tevye was saying, what happens to the 10 years taken away plotline? Right, what was that all about? I don't know. I can't speak for DC and stuff. Raphael's saying, please don't mess this up, DC. This is a really good start. Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying last issue. I'm feeling more confident after issue 2 that we're, like, headed in the right direction. Gonna get a good book out of this. Can expect some fun things out of this. And, like, we're on the right track, so to speak. I don't know for sure, but that's what I'm thinking. Alrighty, that was a good half hour on a single issue. We're going to move on to what's next. So next up, I'm going to read Joker 80th Anniversary and share my thoughts. And we're just going to kind of keep going through this throughout the next day or two and try it out in like sort of chunks of streams and stuff. Tevye was saying, I'm hoping DC editorial doesn't mess this up like Heroes in Crisis. We don't know how much that was editorial. I don't recall blaming them entirely, because a lot of that stuff reeks of Tom King's lesser writing abilities. Praddick is saying, what's your thoughts on Tinian's Batman Joker Wars? It hasn't really pulled me in yet, so I haven't read too much of it. I've kind of read some of the comics leading up to it, and that hasn't really sparked a lot of interest yet. But I'll have to talk about it some more a little bit at some point, because it is on ongoing thing and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll let you guys know about the Joker. We can probably fit that in and maybe another book or two today, and then we'll go from there. So thanks for joining me, guys, and I'll see you with my thoughts on the Joker, which I've started so far, actually, and it's been awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining me, guys, and yeah, we'll try and do it. I want to see what these series of live streams will look like and feel like once we're going on that. Okay. Tevye saying, any opinion on DC Hope at World's End? I've talked about that before. I really like it. I've been following that one digitally, so we haven't really been doing reviews of that, but maybe I'll find a way to talk about that at some point too, because it's also pretty great. So thanks, guys, and we should be on probably like in an hour or so to talk about